We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
What we do not do is spy unlawfully on Americans.
We are leaving in 2014, period. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
You are listening to Biting the Bullet with Luke and Typo.
Yeah, I don't think Jerry Jones could get canceled for anything.
Well, it was just ridiculous that I don't know. It was just like a crazy little story that like the WNBA team was going to get canceled, destroyed, completely gone because they were chartering flights.
It's probably because the NBA was like, hey, you guys don't make enough money for that. Please stop spending our money.
Remember that what I can't remember that college team, dude. What that Sandusky? Was it Sandusky?
Yeah, Penn State.
It was Penn State. I mean, that dude was like raping boys, and like
no coaches knew.
The coach. It was a huge scandal. I mean, it was huge. I mean, there was like multiple accusations, multiple victims. This guy was perverted pedophile, and there's proof. And it was known that people in this establishment that worked there knew about it, and then they didn't say anything. Yeah. No one was talking about we need to get rid of this team. Here, no one brought that up. That wasn't even considered.
We need to get rid of Penn State football. Well, I mean, what else are they gonna do in fucking Pennsylvania? It's either Penn State or Philadelphia. Like, I think most people in Philadelphia at this point in time would rather watch the Penn State, whatever they are, Tigers, I think, than the Philadelphia Eagles. Like.
Yeah, you got NFL players that's like murdered people and came back and played in the league, won championships. Yeah. No one cared. No one cared.
Probably one of the most recognizable faces in the NFL. And nobody cares. He legitimately murdered somebody. And I don't think there was a claim of self-defense. I think he just got away with it. Like
I don't remember the details. It was a while ago. But
it's just a savage.
I mean, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
he
Ben Roethlisberger.
Kobe Bryant just had to change his number, win a few championships, and no one gave a fuck, dude.
No, and people get mad at you for making Kobe Bryant jokes now.
Yeah, now, yeah.
Women will get mad at you for making Kobe Bryant jokes now and be like, yeah, but it's so sad what happened. And it's like, yeah, he literally raped a chick, but whatever. It's cool.
It's weird too, because this whole woke thing took over, but it's only been around for 5 or 6, maybe 7 years, whatever, max 7 years. So there's all these athletes and celebrities that's done
missed it.
Horrible things.
Yeah,
horrible things, but it was before that time, so they're grandfathered in.
Well, and they settled. They had already gotten caught, and they settled their cases, so it never got brought up again.
Yeah. But now, I mean, fucking, what's his name?
Weinstein?
No, well, that's worse. But C.K. Lewis, that comedian, where he did some weird shit, but it was he asked women to come watch him masturbate or something weird like that. I don't remember exactly, but this dude got the wall thrown at him. They were trying to take him down. He's still kind of coming back from it, but it's just crazy.
I haven't seen him in shit. Remember, because he was in a couple of shows, and he had his fucking specials going, and he's gone. I haven't heard him shit. I know he's trying to come back, but I still haven't seen shit with him. I'd fucking go see that guy.
He's
dude,
hilarious.
Especially him. Well, first off, he was fucking hilarious, and second off, just imagine how much better his comedy has gotten. He has so much more self-depreciating jokes to do.
Yeah. Well, I think he was I think he's like in the alternative internet sphere now. I think because he's with
probably on fucking Gab.
Well, he did like Skankfest. He went there, did some comedy there. I think he does his own like comedy scene, but you have to go to like cklewiscomedy.com. Like
I think it's Louis CK, but
Louis CK, whatever.
It was bothering me. I was like, that's not right. Like, that's not right. Why isn't it right? And I had to think about it, and it just popped in my head. It's not right because it's wrong. The other thing, another thing about the WNBA, just because we're all on the topic, and athletes, being pieces of shit and people not caring. Brittany Griner being stuck in the Russian prison for bringing hash to Russia because she plays there half the year or a quarter of the year. She plays in the Russian league. And everybody's like, she wouldn't even have to be in Russia if it wasn't for how low the WNBA pays their stars. And it's like, I'm just sitting over here like, I really don't give a shit. Like, Brittany Griner beat the fuck out of her girlfriend. So like Brittany Griner can fucking go sit in the Russian jail for all I care. I don't give a fuck. I don't really I don't care one way or the other that she beat the shit out of her girlfriend. Doesn't affect my life one way or the other, but to sit there and say like, oh, she shouldn't be in prison because it's just hash and it's Russia and Russia's bad right now. And it's like, if fucking some white man, like pick Cole Beasley, for instance, if he went to goddamn, I don't know, France and wasn't vaccinated when he was supposed to be, and then got thrown in prison, they'd be like, burn him at the stake. I don't know. Like, it's just like fucking retarded, dude. It's like she literally beat the fuck out of her girlfriend a couple years ago, and they didn't say shit.
Yeah. Like, I mean, for professional athlete, that's like required for you to do something criminal.
Yeah.
And actually,
it's like cops. You beat the fuck out of your girlfriend, you still get away with it. So,
well, 40% of the time.
Yeah, that's only for the accounted ones.
Dude, but it is pretty crazy. Like that, to talk about bad timing.
I know.
Russia. Yeah. Like, you should have known. I mean, the fucking I don't know. That's pretty wild though.
I think Joe Biden's like, just go ahead and kill her. Like, do us a favor. Like, the WNBA sucks. It makes it more interesting.
I don't even think Joe Biden knows she's there. Honestly.
All right, maybe the commissioner of the WNBA, they're like, can you guys kill her? Can we give you guys some money for that? Because it would make a lot of headlines if you did, and the WNBA would be bigger than ever.
This is bringing a lot of headlines to the WNBA, and actual headlines that people actually kind of care about.
Yeah, well, I mean, bad publicity is good publicity,
Maybe, but was it really just hash? Did she just have hash?
Yeah, it was like weed. It was like a weed hash. I don't know.
Is that illegal in Russia?
Apparently, I
really don't fucking nuke them.
I really didn't look into it that deeply because I really didn't care, but I just thought it was funny. I've been calling Brittany Griner LeBronda James for fucking years, so like, I just don't care. Did you
see? So do you see Amy Schumer is gonna host what I think it's the Oscars?
Oh, is she?
And so she did an interview and she's talking about how she's going to get President Zelensky to appear at the Oscars. And because there's, she's like, oh, I need to do all these, like, I have this moment, but there's going to be a lot of eyes on us. Doubtful. There's going to be a lot of eyes on us. And
hasn't it got less and less ratings year after year?
Yeah, it's terrible. Well, this is what I'm saying, dude. If there's any way to get the American people to hate Zelensky, you have him show up at the Oscars.
Bring him to the Oscars.
Dude, the amount of...
Could you imagine in the middle of war, like in the middle of being at war, he shows up in person in Hollywood at the Oscars.
I think she's trying to get him to Zoom call in the middle of war, but it's like the American people here, like on both sides, left and right, hate celebrities. Like we're fucking sick and tired of these celebrities. In the past 2 years has only made it like much worse.
Oh yeah, because they just showed how out of touch they are with the general populace.
Yes, how completely out of touch. So it's like they're trying. If you're trying to destroy Ukraine's chances, like bring him to the Oscars, because Amy Schumer, she's hated too. She's not very popular, at least on the internet, I will say. Internet people do not like Amy Schumer. They don't like celebrities. And now they're going to bring Zelensky, who's already, kind of sketchy.
And a fucking celebrity. Like he literally had a whole show before becoming president about being president of Ukraine.
It's so weird, dude. It's like they took the playbook that like what Trump did.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. I don't really know how he became president.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it's some sort of populist type thing. Maybe CIA funded.
I was like, the United States funded it. Like,
yeah, well, he was elected in
what better way
2018, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, we basically took over in 2014, and then the people of the Ukraine didn't like the leader.
Yeah,
and they voted in a comedian.
Yeah. I don't know.
Come on, he's a fucking actor. He's a fucking actor. And
it's pretty weird. I mean, you saw that video where he like Zoomed called into the Congress and he was talking about
and then they all got up and clapped at the same time. It was, oh my god, dude, jack me off some more. Like, holy hell.
Dude, this dude, like, I'm just saying, like, this Zelensky guy is kind of sketchy. Like,
he's definitely sketchy.
Like, I don't know. There's something.
Well, it's like the shit with Snowden when you look at like his acting classes and like random shit that he did in excursions with the CIA, but ended up working with the NSA, and it was like maybe all along he was a fucking CIA plant, and they wanted this to get out to make somebody look bad and da 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 da. You know what I mean? And it's like there's some sketchy shit. There's some sketchy shit with actors out there. You shouldn't trust people that can change their personality so much so that people can believe that it's your real personality.
Yeah. They're like that's the lizard person, man.
Yeah. That's literally what the lizard person is. Yeah. And so like, like everything you know about spies, they can make you believe whatever they want you to believe. And it's like, what do you fucking think an actor is? Like, I get it. Like, they're not, some of them aren't the brightest people, but they don't have to be bright as long as they can get you to do what they want you to do.
Yeah. And there was that whole, like, I think I sent it to you, but there was like that one guy that was, instead of filming like Ukraine, he was like, he went there and he filmed the media in Ukraine. And it's like,
that was a crazy thread.
Yeah, where he was just filming where the press was, what the press was doing, and they're all like, a bunch of stuff was like staged, like all this stuff, like like he would show a street where like cars would be like these two cars are on fire, and that's where the press is all filming. But then you walk like down the road, and then there's like nothing. It's completely fine.
Like prop cars then.
Yeah, it was just so weird, dude. And it's like,
or the train station where they forced everybody into a small area, and then he looks at the rest of the train station and it's like completely empty.
Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck? And he talks about how there is refugees that are coming in to I think he was Poland. In Kiev. And
the refugees were going to Poland. The first part of the thread was him going from Poland to trying to get to Kiev. And he was showing where they were keeping the refugees.
That's right. And then there was like all these hotels, the nicer hotels were all booked out for the press. Because all the press was taking them, and then all the like refugees were sleeping in the trains, dude.
Or at like shitty hostels, and all the press from all the foreign nations were staying at the nice ass hotels or just regular hotels. And it's like how fucked up is that?
It's all, dude, it's all staged. I mean, I'm not saying that like the whole war is staged. No. Well, maybe, but but no,
dude,
like,
I don't know. Some of these videos, like
everything that we see from the media, that they're trying to obviously show an agenda.
Yes.
And it's like, so they're only going to show you
the media
like,
shit is staged, and I don't believe the fucking war is staged. But man, like, I get we live in the 21st century. I don't think there's been enough videos for the fact that we live in the 21st century and the people in Kiev and shit like that are very up to date technologically. Like, I just don't feel like we're getting enough decentralized media. I think it's super fucking weird. And the videos that we do see is fucking, you know, anti-air fucking rockets taking out goddamn helicopters in like perfect picture view. It's always pro,
not pro. It's always pro Ukraine.
And it's not even like a person, like every person I've ever watched anything that recorded anything through a camera that was action based, they're always either behind something that's going, or, you know, totally forget that they're watching through the camera and move the camera. It's like all the fucking fight videos, you know, that you'd see in high school. They'd be like recording in front of their faces, and then the fight goes to the right and their hands are still in the same place, but they watched it with their head and they're like, oh shit, and then move the camera. How are you going to be like, all right, he's about to shoot an anti-tank or an anti-aircraft round, and then follow it all the way perfectly to the fucking aircraft, and then follow the aircraft all the way down? Like, I just don't believe it, man. Like, I just don't believe it.
So sketchy.
I'm not saying that it's like, dude, we got worse videos we got better videos of the Chinese exterminating and taking people out of their houses in Wuhan during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic than we're getting out of the Ukraine with the Russian invasion. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Now, apparently, the Russian military, they don't have their phones, apparently.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that's
I'm talking about the Ukraine.
And that's maybe kind of smart, because
well, it was like the US, like we weren't allowed to bring our cameras into Afghanistan or anything anymore.
Because it's really smart, because if your troops do anything to commit war crimes or post something stupid online, instead of it like something that you can cover up really quick like you used to, or just not report on it, now it can get uploaded instantly. And then and Putin's got to know if there's any footage of like their troops doing anything that is like bad, like anything that can be considered bad, or even just lied and misconstrued to make it look bad, that's going to be all over CNN, on all their fucking all the other news.
The weird thing about that is like he's still letting people film in Moscow. Like, I saw a video and it was this guy, he's like, I'm just filming protest here, or non-protest, like I'm just filming here in Moscow. And they're like, and this lady comes up and she's like, are you letting anything be said? And he's like, yeah, I'm letting anything be said. You can say whatever you want. It's going to get uploaded regardless. And she's like, well, I only have 2 words to say. And then the police take her, just fucking take her away. She didn't even get to say what she was going to do it. Yeah. And then another lady came up and was basically asking the same questions. She was like, well, do you care if I say the other side against like the protest kind of deal? And she's like, I actually probably agree. And then takes her away. Like, the police come up and take her away, but doesn't take the cameraman. The cameraman's sitting right there. And it sounded like she was about to say that I agree with like what Putin is doing in the Ukraine. Yeah. But they were like, apparently, we're not letting any of it. We're not letting any of it come out. Like, they're shutting that shit down, dude. Quiet. We're quiet. You're not allowed to do shit, which is absolutely heinous. Like, it's fucked up, and one of the most egregious crimes of the century. Like, not the most egregious crime of the century. That would be the civil rights. That is one of the most egregious things a dictator or anything can do, is stop people from saying what they want to say, or what they should be able to say, and that's their opinion. It's one of the most egregious things ever. Yeah. And it's just wild that the guy can still record all this. They didn't take the guy away recording. They let him upload the video and everything. Yeah. But the 2 people that were trying, and it's just like shit like that doesn't make sense to me. And that's why, like, both sides, I'm like, you guys are both fucking, You guys are doing shady shit. I know you guys are. And of course, Russia's doing shady shit. And of course, Ukraine's doing shady shit. But it's just like, damn, how shady can this shit be?
Yeah. Well, I follow the Russian Libertarian Party on Twitter. And I think they either went to a protest or helped stage a protest, one of the two. And like a couple of their members actually got arrested and were in jail for a few days because they went to the protest. So looks like Russia doesn't tolerate any sort of protest, or maybe just certain locations. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
they're definitely.
It'd be cool to get like a Russian libertarian on this bitch.
Dude, I reached out to them. They said, "Fuck you, you piece of shit American." No.
Oh, I was like, damn, that'd be savage too. I want them on even more.
They did not reply. But I reached out to a couple of them. The ones that I found, I don't even know, dude. Might not even be real.
Dude, it's probably some dude in fucking Mississippi being like, yeah, we're the Russian Libertarian Party.
Yeah, just get some picture. Probably didn't even get like, because I think they posted the picture of the guy that got arrested, and he probably just found it on Facebook. Probably
right. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we talked about this a few weeks ago since I wasn't here last week. The whole Russia-Ukraine shit it's the weirdest, most expected war like I can think of. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knew this was going to happen. Everybody knew that there was going to be tensions and conflict at some point between Russia and Ukraine. Like, every major geopolitical analyst in the last 15 years, the last 20 plus years, actually now, since it's 2022, like 20 plus years since the Soviet Union fell, and then in what year was it when Ukraine like really split off? With like middle 90s, like where they were like, nope, we're our own shit. And then
it was 91 when the Soviet Union fell.
Well, yeah, I just meant when they like the chaos of the Soviet Union falling in those regions, like Ukraine didn't stand up the next day and was like, this is our clear borderline. Like, I think it was like middle 90s when it finally like, this is our area or whatever. And then when they got the parts that Russia's saying are free, like that whole area was in the 90s too. But it's just like, I don't know. Like, everybody knew that this was going to happen. And I still feel like it's kind of like Biden pulling out of Afghanistan. It's like, well, how can we fuck this up so badly?
Well, that's what's crazy, dude. Like, so I'll say it like this, that we just got out of fucking Afghanistan after 20 years, the longest war in American history. We just got out of that. Like, that just happened like 6 months ago. I know a lot of times like news travels fast for a lot of people, and like, it's people you forget, but like that just happened. And now we're basically in war with Russia. I mean, we're arming all these NATO countries are arming the shit. It's a proxy war. And Ukraine is fighting. We're arming them.
We just gave them like $1 billion worth of fucking like $14 billion worth of Stinger missiles, air to ground fucking other missiles, like regular fucking firearms. Like, we just gave them $14 billion, and the people of the United States are still struggling to pay fucking gas. Like,
yeah, well, that's why I think I don't,
or trying to recover from COVID-19.
Yeah, that's it too. It's like we're just now coming, like, I mean, I know like a lot of places is kind of like dropped down the COVID shit, but like officially, unofficially, it's happening right now. Is all this COVID stuff's just going away, and they're not even doing like a big victory lap, like it's over, we did it. No, they're they're focusing. They're pivoting, and they're just focusing on Russia, Ukraine, and a little bit in the background. This COVID stuff dropping everywhere, left and right.
Did you see the new, like, what's it called, Decagron or some shit like that? Now it's like Autobots roll out, like these fucking names, dude. Like, I don't understand why we're not just like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like COVID 1, COVID 2, COVID 3, COVID 4.
I know.
Like, what's with the fucking?
Because that's be scary. They want it to
I
be
know.
scary.
Just
some
fucking number
PR
it.
person is like, let's just call it. There's some asshole PR guy just like you that's sitting in these meetings, and he's like, why the fuck are we not just calling it COVID 1, 2, 3? And he's like, well, that doesn't fit well with the numbers. Like that doesn't
It's
get
bad
people
for the
ramped
PR.
up. It doesn't get people ramped up. And the guy's like, whatever, just call it whatever you want.
It's the meme. It's that meme where the guy's sitting at the desk and he's got his head in his hands and they're like, why don't we just do it something obvious? And they're like, mean face him and then throw him out the window.
Yeah. That's what's happening. You're
dude,
that guy in that meeting, dude. You're that guy.
And I have always been that guy. You know this. Like, I have always been that guy. Why don't we just do it the most logical way possible?
Yeah.
And they're like, because fuck you, that's why. And I'm like, well, I'll just go fuck myself then. And then I launch myself out the window. That guy in that meme isn't actually getting thrown out the window. He's just like, I'm done with this stupidity and I'm going to suicide myself. And he jumped out the window because men do it better than women, even though we try to commit suicide at the same rate.
I thought he jumped out the window because a plane hit his building.
Only no planes hit the building.
Yeah, that's right. Jet fuel.
That's like
still beams, don't you know?
That's like I still love every time somebody mentions the Holocaust and they're like, sound a little high. Like, that's still my favorite thing on Twitter.
I know, dude. It's so
or any
hilarious.
number that's over 6 million, like it like COVID deaths, amount of jobs created this year, like the amount of hair follicles on a human body. As long as it has like 6 million or above, somebody will retweet it and be like, sounds a little high. And it cracks me up every single time. I could see 7 in a row and I'm like, that's good. I think 6 million sounds pretty accurate, but the joke is still funny to me.
Yeah. Who knows what the number is, dude?
Honestly, who cares? Who cares what the number is? Most of us can't even count that high. Nobody can imagine in their mind 6 million people. Like you can't picture $6 million. Nobody knows. Like there's people that have seen that in their possession and you still can't fathom the amount of money that it actually is. So like who cares? There was a shit ton of people that died. Like shit ton of people that died just because they were fucking Jewish or gypsies or mentally retarded or black.
You're allowed to overestimate, but you're not allowed to underestimate.
And that's why it's so funny, dude. That's why it's funny. It's like not the fact that it happened, but underestimating it and watching people lose their minds.
Yeah.
It's just funny. It's just
I actually
funny.
think 5,999 Jews died. And they're like, what?
And people would be pissed. They're like, that's my grandpa you're talking about. Like, I met your grandpa last week, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, he's still alive.
And it's like honestly, for me, dude, like I don't know any.
I saw the tattoo.
Like, I don't even know if Jews are real. There's not Jews around here.
Oh well, yeah, dude. There's not a fucking person of color in your town.
How many Jews are in Phoenix, dude?
There's a large Hasidic Jew population in Phoenix.
You better be keeping track, dude. you better.
Less than 6 million, Typo.
So less than 6 million Jews live in Phoenix. I don't know, dude.
Shit. I don't know. The world's on fire, and I'm just getting drunk doing it. I'm drinking bourbon, drinking beer. I think that's the only way to do it. I don't know. I have lost my ability to care about a lot of these things.
What's really annoying to me is that, like, here in America,
6 million doesn't sound too high.
It's a little high. But here in America, like this country is so lucky. Like we have never had like in our generation or even our grandparents' generation, we've never even had a real full out war at home that like damages your society for generations. Like, we've just never had that. We had Pearl Harbor and 9/11, and don't get me wrong, but compared to other countries, that is not that bad.
I would argue that World War II was pretty bad. I would argue just the whole of World War II was pretty bad, just for the sheer amount of people that were lost. But
yeah,
comparatively, the last time a war was fought in the United States of America was the goddamn Civil fucking War, where we fought each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what we do.
And this is
with that being said, like, we don't understand exactly what you're saying. We don't understand how horrible, like, the whole of our populace does not understand how horrible war is. And they just think it's a thing that you send your kids off to.
Yeah, dude. And like, that's why all these people, they're asking we got to close the sky over Ukraine. Close the skies, no fly zone. And it's like,
the skies.
I was like, okay, clearly they're asking for war. Like,
this is what war is.
This is fucking war. Like, you have to not only shoot down Russian airplanes, you also have to shoot down their anti-air equipment. So if you're shooting missiles and firing artillery at it, that's fucking war. That is.
Well, I mean, it was the same. It was the same people that under Obama was like, well, let's just send in drones because it's better than using boots on the ground. And it's like, you also kill a lot more innocent people, because then you can just send drones out indiscriminately. And like, there's at least, and I'm not saying that this is the right thing either, at least in a situation where there's boots on the ground, they have to make the fucking snap decision on whether they should or they shouldn't. And there's a lot of times, and there's a lot of people you meet in those situations that the humanity in them struck a chord and reached out and stopped them from doing something that they might have ended up regretting with the rest of their life. And I mean, sometimes it backfired, and the 6-year-old still shot their buddy in the face. But at the same time, they didn't have to. They ended up killing the 6-year-old after the 6-year-old killed their buddy that was 22. But this is why war is bad, because you indiscriminately are able to do it from thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away, where the people that are doing it don't have any remorseful interaction with the population that they're destroying. Or you have to watch people that have to face it right up front, close and personal, and destroys the rest of their lives personally. Like, it's one way or the other. And I think both are very, very poor options.
Yeah. And like, so I don't know, Jocko Willink had Scott Horton on.
Yeah. I saw that. I need to watch it. But
so the opening of it, Jocko Willink does this intro, and he says that if you're going to go to war, you have to have the how does he frame it? The willingness to kill. And then he elaborates and says, you're not only going to just kill your enemies, you're going to kill civilians too, because that's what war is. And I was like, holy shit. And like, I've just never heard anyone say it like that. And that's true. Like, we always say, like, civilians,
we've talked about it,
but like, that's what you have to kind of assess. And it's just insane watching people, they're asking for, like, it's already pretty heated over there. So we're going to ramp it up even more, get the US involved. And this is nothing. This is nothing like our generation has ever fought before. These little terrorist battles we did in the Afghanistan, the Middle East, and all this, where we get all this high tech fighting like these poor people with not that much equipment. No, this is going to be a conventional army. Oh, and they also have nuclear missiles. They also have nuclear missiles. So all these Americans out here all these Americans walking around, dude, talking about like, oh, we need to escalate things, we need to do more. And it's like, well, it might finally come home when you're fucking washing the ash off your car as you're getting ready to go to work.
From the population, hopefully the population of DC, they can all burn in the fiery pits of a nuclear bomb. I'll wash the ash off my car happily. if it's the ash cloud from DC. Yeah. Happily wash it off my
yeah.
I'll be singing fucking Dua Lipa, like fucking, singing that song and just la-di-da-di-da, cleaning it off my fucking car. I'll inhale the ashes. I'll try to snort it like cocaine at that point, just because it would give me a high regardless.
Well, yeah, it'd probably kill you. I mean, if you're seeing ash, I'm assuming death is coming shortly after. I'm not sure. I'm not a nuclear missile expert.
No, there was an ash cloud that was roaming around the world when Pompeii fucking blew. There was an ash cloud for like a couple years.
How long was there an ash cloud over Japan?
Not very long. There's strong winds. There's strong winds in Japan. It wasn't there very long. This is where we get anime, ladies and gentlemen. The ash cloud still lingers over Japan.
Yeah, they're still there, guys. I was there. Was that the ash or is that the nuke or the Jews?
I don't know. I wonder if the smokestack sent up more than just smoke, if there was a lot of ash in there.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. We should ask IBM because they made the fucking ovens. So we should ask them.
That's true. They might know a thing or two.
But they know how to make a computer too. Jews use that every day.
Yeah, they do. To tweet dumb shit like put a no-fly zone.
Dude, that was the craziest thing when I learned that IBM literally made the fucking ovens. Like that was fucking wild. And now like IBM is like one of the biggest processing computer people.
They always ramp up what is it, Nuremberg trials. It's like, yeah, we tried those Nazis and took care of them. Well, actually the American government took about half of those Nazis. Yeah. They brought them back here. How do you think we got the space?
Yeah. The fucking
like,
Nazis.
We kind of just like, yeah, well, we know what they did, but we could use them for good.
And we didn't even go to space. Like, let's be honest. Like,
that's the most interesting
the Earth is flat
theory to me, is that we didn't go to space one.
Honestly, it's one of those things that I just don't care about. Like, there's like a lot of these things that they're like, well, if you believe all the fucking, like, you and I get it all the time. Like when we're with our fucking normal ass friends talking about normal ass shit, and then politics get brought up, and it's like, well, you probably believe, you're so they think anti-establishment means like being anti everything you've ever learned. And it's like, dude, honestly, I just don't care about a lot of this shit. And there's a few things that I do care about, and that's what makes me anti-establishment, I guess. I'm pretty anti-authority by nature. I got that probably from my mom, and then just from growing up in the public school system the way that I did, and then going to the Marine Corps. Like, I just went through the most extreme forms of authority that I was just like, fuck this, I'm done. I don't really care. Like, you guys can go fuck yourselves. And then after that, it's just like, I don't care if they lied to me about the world being flat or us being heliocentric, or like, none of those things actually bother me on a day-to-day, because it does literally nothing for me. Like, literally nothing for me does it do. It doesn't do shit. I don't care. If we landed on the moon, dope. If we didn't, don't give a fuck. Like, what does it do for me? Nothing. I'm very self-centered and selfish about this, because in the same token, it's like, how does it affect my day? Oh no, America's not as great as we thought it was because it lied about landing on the moon. America was shit before we landed on the moon. What made you expect it to be any better after we landed on the moon? Like, I don't fucking care.
And as an American living over here in America, 5,000 miles away from what's going on in Russia or Ukraine, it's hard for me to want to care.
Yeah, personally, about individuals, I want to use it to create content and analyze it to show how they're lying to me.
What I mean is, like, I do care because our government wants to be so involved. But the correct mentality is when two countries in Europe go to war, it's like, why the fuck why would we care over here in America?
You got to fight them over there, Typo, before they bring the fight here. Well, and I mean, we've heard that fucking argument before.
Yeah, and it's funny how they always phrase that, where like Russia is fighting Ukraine on NATO's doorstep. That's how they say that.
It's like, NATO was against the Soviet Union, so once the Soviet Union fell, NATO should have dissolved.
Well, it's like they're saying that they're fighting Russia on NATO's border, when it's like Russia's fighting it's literally Russia's border.
It's literally Russia's border.
It's literally Russia's border. It's not even that it's not like they're like, oh, NATO's border. I'm like, you mean Russia's, dude? Like, come on, bro.
Dude, isn't it crazy how like just the phrasing of something can totally change how people react to it? Like, it's so interesting to me. Like, this is so like I always get in the argument, and I bring up my parents all the time because I think it's important to like talk about how your interactions with personal relationships. Like when we talk about this shit, I always bring up my parents because I respect my parents a shit ton. And I think and for some of the younger listeners, you're going to go through this period where it's like, it's not so much that you stop giving a fuck about what your parents say. It's more that you come into your own idea of thinking, about certain aspects. And it doesn't line up always with the same values or the same, temperaments or a lot of different things that your parents thought. And so it's like this weird thing where you still respect them because you love the shit out of them and they're your parents, and even though they don't see things the way that you see them, you're like, you still want to, you don't want to go over there and be kicked out of fucking Thanksgiving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be dumb.
You still have it'd be stupid, so there's one thing that I piss my mom off with this all the fucking time, and I've had to phrase it. You've heard me say this all the time, but she takes it almost literally, or I mean it literally, but in a more like far away sense. I'll just say it. I always say that words don't mean anything. And I know a lot of people will get upset about that phrase because some of the most powerful, moving things can, make people do some of the wildest, craziest things. I understand that. And when I say words don't mean anything, what I am implying is that a lot of this shit is just air with a fucking tone behind it. It doesn't mean shit. Words, people will get upset when you tell them that words can't fucking hurt you. People get upset at that. And it's like, bro, all this shit, it has nothing to do with the words that are used. It has everything to do with the reactions you have to what you are interpreting as being conveyed to you by noises in the air. That's the best way I can explain it in an intelligent way. But it's you have control over all this, you have control over yourself, your person. There's not much else outside of you that you can control. There's just not much else that you can control except how you do things, how your body moves. If you got fucking Parkinson's, that sucks for you. You can't even control how your body moves, but you can control your fucking brain for the most part. And we don't even control all of our fucking brains. I have 2 brain cells, and I understand this concept of you can only control what happens here. And it's so frustrating to me when people get so worked up about, how things are construed or conveyed and blah, 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 blah. And all this to say, we were talking about how it changes people's, if you put it as NATO's doorstep instead of Russia's doorstep, it changes whole people's opinions. Mm-hmm. And then when you say Russia's doorstep, they get really mad at you for saying that. And it's like, oh, how could you say that? It's the people of Ukraine's lives. And it's also the people of fucking Russia's lives. And like words, and this is like where the pushback is like words do mean things, but it's like to lead people astray in a certain way. It's so dishonest and it frustrates the fuck out of me. And I really don't believe that words have as much meaning as everybody puts into them. But when people can use them in the right way and everybody puts stock into everything that's said, it's so frustrating because it's like, yo, like they're just pushing a fucking narrative on you that you're just eating the fuck up. You're eating ass so much right now and you don't even know you're eating ass. You still think you're at the vagina, boy. Like, I don't know what the fuck you want. Like, I can't help you any more than that. I can't tell you that the fucking, there's a taint between the ass and a fucking vagina. You're licking a belly button right now and you think you're licking taint. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, and you don't believe me. I mean, it's just, it's so fucking frustrating because these people are, like, the majority of them are just fucking stupid. Like, I walk by every day more and more and I'm like, this person's an NPC. This person's an NPC. It's like that fucking video. I'm going on a fucking rant right now. It's like that fucking video that I don't remember if it was Cole or you that sent it to the group chat, but it was the cops trying to find the guy that hid behind the car. Who like stole the car, stole this fucking car. I'll share it. We'll put it on our Instagram or some shit so you guys can see this. But there's fucking cops. And I was like, this is a video game. Like, this is a fucking video game. Because this guy stole a car, then runs, gets out of the car. He's a fat motherfucker. This is a fat dude. This is a fat, big ass fat guy. And he goes and he hides in this neighborhood. And you clearly see him get out of the car, clearly see him run over towards like where this gated fence is to a driveway. And then can't find a place to hide because he can't jump the 3.5 foot fence. And then runs back to the corner of the fence where there is a car parked. But on both sides of the car, you can see the fence that he ran into that he can't get over. And he crouches down behind this like Honda Civic, which he is almost the same size as. Like, this guy takes up half the car. And 4 cops get out at first. Can't find him. They watched him get out of the car, watched him run, didn't see him. This is all within like a 20-yard space. Get out and run, and like they just lost him. They run by, then sprint down the street 50 yards as he's just still hiding in this corner, and then sprint back. There's a helicopter filming the whole thing, and they're like, dude, he's right there behind the fucking car. And then they're like, get orders on the fucking the radios, and they're like, oh, he's behind the car, and then they run like 20 yards the other way down the street while this guy's just sitting there laying there like a beached fucking whale in this corner of a gate that's clear, and he's not even behind the gate. He's in front of the gate behind a car, like the most obvious place to look. And even when they walked up to the gate and they had a clear vision to see him, they still didn't see his ass. This guy's a big man. They still can't see him. And I just treat everybody that I work with on a day-to-day basis or that I talk to, besides like people in my close personal circle, as fucking NPCs. Like, they don't actually exist. There's nothing there. And I just go on about my day. Have a good day. Thank you, sir. You too. Like, that's what you hear. And it's like, all right, I've heard this in a video game 17 million times. I can't do it. It's so wild.
Yeah, dude. There is a lot of like blue pill people that I mean, there's just nothing there. There's nothing to talk about as like anything outside of like nice weather we're having. Yeah, it has been nice the last couple of days. It's like, yeah, you're talking to the weather, but there's nothing like actually like substance over serious conversation. And then after, like, you know, it's just be about anything. Doesn't even have to be about like politics or anything. It's just about anything. And they can't elaborate. They don't know. There's nothing. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like I just looked up biggest NPC phrases, and it's like, here is a currently uncompleted list of NPC quotes. And this one's mostly off of World of Warcraft. And it's remember the sun well, or stay the course, time is of the essence. I can't tell you how many times in a week I hear time is of the essence. People finish that in their fucking emails at my work. Let's see. Thrall's balls, they're everywhere. I could see somebody saying that on the streets, like some fucking crackhead. Thrall's balls, they're everywhere. Like I could see that. Like it's not even surprising to me at this point anymore. Yeah, there's no substance in this world.
Well, that's why like people, I don't know. I think that's the thing too. And like from the news perspective, like this COVID stuff was dying down.
Yeah.
They can't get like people ramped up about fucking COVID. And then we got war. Now everyone's like, dude, it's like overnight, drop the mask, you put on a Ukrainian flag. We're fucking just red or not red, fucking, what is it? Blue and yellow. Just people put that shit everywhere now. Dude, Grunt Style has,
of course they are. They're fucking war hawks. They want to go back to war. They'll never fight in it.
But it was the "Don't tread on me" like saying, but it was with the yellow and the blue on the flag.
Dude, Grunt Style is one of the biggest load of shit that them and Black Rifle Coffee Company. Anything about them, I cringe at. I cringe.
Yeah.
The only thing that's good,
always like the dudes.
It was always cringe.
It was always cringe, and only the dudes that like bought into like the Marine Corps all the way were the ones that were like, those are the guys that were Grunt Style. You talk to them and they're like, this guy's he wants to be a good soldier.
Yeah. I just like fucking Grunt Style was always garbage, and we were just like, you guys are faggots. Like I'm not anybody that wore Grunt Style, like especially there was dudes that wore Grunt Style on a daily fucking basis, and I was like, okay. Yeah. Like,
and it was always the pogues, dude, the biggest fucking pogue. Like I know I'm a pogue, but it was like the bigger pogues than me that would be fucking Grunt Style, dude. And I'm like, dude,
well, and then like grunt. And then and then all the O3s had Grunt Style shit. It's like they were fucking sponsored by them. Like, my fucking God. I was like, dude, nobody cares. And they're like, I'm an O3. And it's like, still no one cares. It's okay. 6 million is too high. It's okay. I don't know. Like, that was the only vet thing that I follow now is Vet TV. And that's because they come out with some funny ass shit. And it's like typical Marine Corps humor. Or just military humor, I guess, in general.
Yeah, and it's just dumb military humor.
It's dumb. And it's not like with all the politics laced in, it's just like the dumb shit. Like even with Terminal Lance, like I feel this is my problem too, is like I still feel like it kind of glorifies the Marine Corps in a certain way. And I'm like, I hate anything that glorifies the Marine Corps in any way. Some dude messaged me actually on Instagram. He's like, hey Luke, I know how you feel about the Marine Corps, and he's like, I've always thought about joining it for a long time, but I just don't really have anything else going in my life. How can I not, or what are some things that I should look for when I join? And I'm like, you shouldn't join. Like I don't care. I'm not gonna be like, hey, hook yourself up, make sure you get a cush ass job, like don't let your recruiter say this, ask for a $5,000 signing bonus. Like, no, man, like none of it is worth it. Like there isn't a single part of it that I could tell you that is worth it. Like, in my opinion, at this point in time, like I couldn't fathom. And it's also more so like, I just couldn't imagine telling somebody like, you'll get through it. It'll be fine. Like whatever. And them being like, well, you say you hate it so much, and then you told me to go and do it. And now I have no leg. And I see what you were talking about before when you said that nobody should join. And it's like, I'm not going to like justify it to you. Like, nah, man, like you are better off joining a trade and living on the streets if you have to, making $10 an hour until you move up in that trade.
Or just being with your family. Like that's just staying, like just being with your family and not missing funerals and weddings and whatever else is going on.
Yeah. And the only good part about it that I always say is like, I met two of my best friends, you and fucking Nick. And then obviously, you know, couple of our friends that we don't get to talk to as much, but at least we get to stay in contact with, like Mike and Ivan and Mario and like some of our good friends. Like that is the only thing that came out of the Marine Corps. And it would, the only reason why, if I ever had the chance to go back and do it again, is to meet everybody like that. But at the same time, like I know people that have just as close as bonds, probably not closer, but just as close as bonds with their fucking friends in trades or in their regular jobs or from fucking high school that I made. And it just turned out that way that I met you guys through that. But it's just like, there's no way in hell that I'm ever going to tell anybody that it's, or they tell me I'm going to join anyways. And I'm going to be like, all right, like, I'm not going to fucking stop you, but I think it's stupid. I think it's honestly, this one of the stupidest things to do.
Yeah. Well, it puts you in like, dude, like there's like all these things, like it's not, there's no level to it that you'll do good. Because like in a lot like insert maybe like very small instances you will do something. Like I know Matt from Status Quo, he was a medic. He got to help like regular people that were injured and stuff like that. And that's great for like those people, and probably maybe even life-saving in times like that. But it's not always what you're gonna do. You're not, the majority of the time that's not. Yeah, most of the time you're not doing that. And I mean, and then like just the like where, like who are you helping in the grand scheme of things? Yeah, I mean, these people that get put in power in these places that America's trying to quote help is always like the worst people like literally the worst people. Like I know like a lot of people want to talk about how there's literal like Nazis. There's a little subsection in their military of Nazis in Ukraine that America backed. But like what we did in Afghanistan is much worse. I mean, they put literal pedophiles in charge. And it was your response. It was Marines, soldiers' responsibility to protect them. Yep. Literal pedophiles. Like that is who they put in charge. And the Marines got killed. Like imagine you're in the military, you get put in a situation, you have to protect a pedophile, and then you get killed by one of the kids because they saw you as an enemy for protecting their person that was raping them. Like that,
knowingly, that you knew that that was raping them.
Yeah, and you knew about it. Like that actually happened. It happened. There's quite a few.
And you're there for peace and freedom.
Yeah. And like you have no say. You have no say. Like you almost have no rights in the military. Like if they want to send you to, I don't know, possible World War III, they're gonna send you. And there's not much you can do about it.
There's very, very little.
Yeah, very little.
Well, and I just want to say, just in case he does listen, he messaged me back and I didn't see it. He was like, that's what I needed to hear. I'm a welder right now, but I just don't have much to do. So good for you. Continue being a welder.
Welders make pretty good money, dude.
They make great money. Just stick with it, you fucking dickhead. God, dude. When he sent me that, I got heated. I got heated when he sent me that. And I was like, nobody fucking listens. Nobody fucking listens, man. And I was just like, don't join the military. Don't join the military, especially right now. Especially right now. This is probably one of the worst times to join the military because you're going to end up doing some shit. Because you're going to be brand fucking new to the fleet. You're going to be a goddamn boot. You're going to be just out of fucking boot camp and MCT or infantry or what is it? MOS school and infantry school, whatever it's fucking called. I can't think of it right now. You're going to go right out of that and you're going to be raring to go because they hyped you up on some fucking bullshit. I was there. I've done it. I know. I felt the same way. Felt that way most of the way through my career and even a year or so afterwards.
Yeah, it's that you
like I didn't do enough.
You want that feeling of accomplishment, but you're not going to get that in the military. You never get that. Even if you do everything, like you just
even if you deploy and go through some shit.
Yeah, you want that feeling of accomplishment, like you made a difference in this world. You wanted to help or serve your country, whatever it is. But that never happens.
That's not the business that they're in. They're not there to fulfill you.
Have you heard of the Chicken Kiev speech?
No.
I just want to, I found out about this. It was Scott Horton had an episode that I listened to, and he talked about
this. Is this something that we can pull up?
Yeah, but it's a really long speech, but I took a screenshot. But it's an old speech. It was George H.W. Bush. This was 1991. And this, I think it was in September. This was like 3 months before the Soviet Union collapsed.
Oh, wow.
So the Soviet Union's about like in the middle of collapsing. And George H.W. Bush goes to Ukraine and he tries to save the Soviet Union. He does not want it. He does not want it to collapse. And so for a little backstory, just real quick about George Bush, he was the head of the CIA before he became the vice president to Reagan, then president after Reagan.
Yeah, George H.
So he knows, he's an intelligence.
He knows some shit.
So he knows some shit. He knows what's going on in other foreign countries. This is what the CIA does. They spy on mainly other foreign countries and knows the ins and outs and how their politics go. Even our allies, they do it to our allies.
Does he know how many Jews were killed in the Holocaust?
I think he said it's a little under 6 million. But there's a line in this speech. So when he's given this speech in Ukraine, and apparently Condoleezza Rice wrote this too.
Oh my God, this is getting worse.
It's all coming around, dude. So one of the lines is, yet freedom is not the same as independence. Americans will not support those who seek independence in order to replace a far-off tyranny with a local despotism. They will not aid those who promote a suicidal nationalism based upon ethnic hatred. Now, why would George Bush go to Ukraine and try to tell them not to declare independence because of nationalism and ethnic hatred?
Because
what?
More than half of the Ukraine are ethnic Russians.
Well, I think he's saying that he knows that they have a Nazi problem in Ukraine.
Yeah, that too.
That he thinks that for whatever reason that the Soviet Union needs to stay alive, which is insane because I know we're like young and we weren't really around for the Cold War, but this was like one of the Nazis. This was like the biggest thing was the Cold War. Like Russia, Hollywood got involved. We all hate the Soviet Union, go capitalism, whatever. But while it's collapsing, George Bush is in Ukraine being like, yo, don't declare independence. You guys got an ethnic hatred problem going on here. So it's just like, dude, how? And so I did, apparently Germany back in World War II, Germany invaded Ukraine.
Why is there so many? Are you about to tell me why there's so many Nazis in fucking Ukraine?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, why?
So
why is there so many fucking Nazis in the Ukraine?
Okay, so first of all, Ukraine in the 30s went through that horrible famine and got a bunch of them starved. Well, that resonated
by the Russians.
That resonated with the people. And then when World War II hit, the western side of Ukraine, they welcomed Hitler. A lot of the towns there welcomed them as liberators. They're thank fucking God, dude. These people are starving us. Yeah. And so then a lot of I don't know if they already had Nazis there or if Nazis showing up, they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, we support you guys. So a lot of the Nazis
Fuck
gained,
the Jews.
yeah,
Fuck the Jews. I get to eat.
Yeah, dude. So then all these Ukrainians, and they helped the Nazis commit genocide in Ukraine. They helped them, like all these Ukrainians that were like, fuck yeah, fascism, let's go. And they murdered a bunch of Jews there. Well, then the Soviet Union, you know, eventually pushed them back. And this is probably why the tension is so high, because like Crimea, that little like part that's but it's under
such a weird
Russia
fucking part.
Well, that little thing, 300,000 Russians died defending that from the Nazis.
Nice.
Like that is some serious.
What happened in Belarus? Because I'm pretty sure the Russians are bombing Belarus right now.
Oh, I did not know anything about that, but that's pretty wild. But anyways, so because like I don't know, because Germany came in as these liberators to some people in Ukraine, there's been this ethnic fucking hatred or Nazis that are just still there in Ukraine. And I guess it never went away. Apparently, when after the Germany left, there was actually still a lot of fighting between an insurgency that was going on in Ukraine against the Soviet Union, all like through the 50s, because they were like, fuck you, dude, we're not going back to you guys, which is understandable.
Yeah,
like understandable.
Fuck, I don't blame them. Dude, Soviet Union was horrible. And I'm not like, I think probably people from the Jason Booth episode, they're probably going to be like, you guys don't think Russia's that bad. And it's like, I think Russia's horrible. I don't think Russia's a good place to live.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just saying, they're probably like the people in the bigger cities probably generally live almost identical lives to the people in the big cities of the United States. Very close when it comes to what their day-to-day routine is. I'm not saying idealistically, because they'll just fucking, I feel like a soccer mom of 4 will just execute a trans person in the middle of the streets of Ukraine. Like I don't think they have any problem with that. But that's besides the point. We celebrate them here and call them world champions.
Yeah.
But you know, for the most part, like how their day-to-day lives are, it's very similar. They take their kid to soccer practice. They fucking wake up in the morning and make their kids lunches. Like I'm not saying that Russia is this like, is Russia evil? Yeah, for the most part. I don't think Russia is a very good country when it comes to civil liberties and everything else. Is it the worst place on earth to live? Probably not. Probably not. Especially definitely not. Definitely not. Detroit is probably worse than Moscow.
And the thing is too,
Chicago probably worse than Moscow.
They're not the communist. That's not what they are.
And they're not the same Russia as the Soviet Union was. They're just not. That's not the same. And people need to stop equating the two. And I'm not saying that to be like, they're good now, we need to support Russia. Like, that's not it. What he's doing right now to people on the streets protesting what is going on, horrendous. I think that's horrible. I think that's an extreme violation to what every person in the world, no matter where they're from, has the right to be able to do. And I want people to understand that. And
he should do what America does and funds a counter protest so they will go fight and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah,
not the police.
Exactly. That's what we're about in America. That's what we're about. I want Whitney Houston on cocaine singing the national anthem with Jerry Jones on Cowboy Stadium kneeing on Colin Kaepernick's neck for 8.5 minutes. That's what I want. This is America. No, but like, you know, it's not about Russia being all good or all bad. It's generally a country that does bad and does good just the same as the fucking United States. Does it have things worse? Absolutely. Does the United States in some cases have things worse? Absolutely. We do. There are countries with way too much power. That's the problem. This dynamic of centralized leadership is the fucking problem. And that's why, look at their fucking dollar. Or the ruble. It's fucking going to shit. It's gone to shit. It's fucking done.
Yeah,
the United States, look, the United States is doing the same shit. The only one that might make it out of this, the yuan from China, because fucking Saudi Arabia is going to trade in it, or it looks like they're going to trade in it. That they'd rather trade with the yuan than the US dollar because of what America has done. And the yuan's not much better. It's funded on the same bullshit that the United States does. They've printed trillions of dollars worth of their yuan, whatever the equatable equation is. It's almost directly related to what we've done with the dollar, probably worse. China is so far like removed from actual economics that I don't know how it exists right now, but it exists mostly off of United States paying it off. So like I'm not worried about China. I'm not worried about Russia. I'm worried about the United States pushing further into something that they need to just back off of. Because at this point, we're going to cause another medieval time. We're going to just get into a nuclear fucking war where we destroy 60% of the population of Earth, and the rest of us that survive, and I will be one of those, have third arms, a third eye, and
really into anime. And really into anime.
The Japanese are going to be fine. They've already been nuked once. They'll be all right. They've built up an immunity over the last 80 years.
Yeah. But no, you're
I wonder
right,
what the cancer rate is in Japan. I wonder if it's higher or lower. Like, you think the newer generations are just like, yeah, we're used to radiation. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, that's normal. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
This
that's
is
why
we have micropeens.
Dude, if mainland Japan didn't get nuked, they'd be living to like 125 like Okinawans for some goddamn reason.
That's true.
But you're right, dude. And you know what else is crazy is when the Soviet Union was collapsing, Russia was regarded as like the heroes because they were like the major power in the area that seceded from the Union. It was like, we're done. And they put up a red, white, and blue flag. They went from the fucking yellow and red star, whatever, to a red, white, and blue flag, the color of literally their enemy the whole time. Now, I'm sure there's more historical context for why they chose that color, but for this, it's just like an open, like, look, we're putting up a new color flag and it's going to be the same as our enemy. So like, that's crazy. And they were regarded as these heroes. And then when that NATO started expanding, all those like old dudes that were like the foreign policy advisors during the Cold War were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you insane? And they all freaked out. Like they used like their fancy like graybeard talk, but like the founding fathers would be rolling over in their grave.
Yeah.
Like the most serious way they can say something is like, you are fucking insane for doing this.
Right.
And now it's, finally come into fruition about what happens when NATO keeps expanding. And that's what's crazy about all this. It's like things here don't look like they're slowing down. It looks like they're pushing and pushing.
They're flowing. They put their foot to the pedal.
And it's basically a proxy war. I mean, all these countries are arming Ukraine, sending all their weapons. And Canada said they're depleted, as in like, we only have weapons for what we absolutely need for our defense, and we sent everything to Ukraine. Like all these countries just dumping weapons in there.
And he's not even allowed in Russia.
Yeah. The first black prime minister has been banned from Russia. And so like, dude, like, I feel like that's just more provocation after provocation where it's like, bro, like, even I think Russia's going to win this war, but if there's any sort of sense where Russia's getting pushed back, I think Russia's going to dominate. Their military is much better. I think they're coming in, sure, these weapons and stuff, but this is what's crazy, dude, is Hillary Clinton talked about giving Russia their own Afghanistan.
Yeah.
They just want to fund this thing. If it turns into an insurgency, that would probably be better for all parties, or besides Russia, because the Ukraine, it's much easier to fight.
We've already gave Russia their own Afghanistan. It was Afghanistan.
This is what's crazy, dude. We've had Vietnam. Our foreign policies advisors were like, oh my God, that was bad. We shouldn't do that. But you know what? We're going to give a Vietnam to Soviet Union. So they gave them Afghanistan, and they got bogged down there. 2 years later, they collapsed. But that backfired because those people we funded in Afghanistan started shooting at us.
Fuck the United States.
Fuck the United States. So then through the 90s, they attacked us. 90s, they attacked us. And then the big one in 2001, where, you know, about
the Simpsons called it.
They say it's 4,000, but I think it's a little less. I think it's a little less than 4,000. But I think it's less than 4,000 people died on 9/11. And then, so then we get bogged down in a 20-year war with Afghanistan.
And then the Russians didn't even fund them. The Russians didn't even fund them. They put hits out. That was a lie. They didn't put
Russia. Dude, Putin, a week or days after we got attacked on 9/11, Putin was one of the first leaders to call George Bush, and he said, Russia is going to give you, if you need our airspace to go into Afghanistan, you got it. If you need access, if you need any help, you got it. Dude, this is what
Putin was sitting there like,
this is our opportunity.
Putin was like, I know what those fuckers do. I know what those fuckers do. Wasn't Putin a military guy? Wasn't he a military guy?
He was KGB.
Oh, he was KGB.
But so then we just into Afghanistan.
Oh, and he was Russian armed forces.
I didn't know that.
He served 75 to 91. And then KGB afterwards. 98 to 99, KGB. And then 2000 to president as the fucking whatever they're called. Commander-in-Chief, fucking Colonel Supreme.
Yeah,
he was like, fuck those Afghanis.
I think like, he also go. Like I can't remember when he came into power, something, I don't remember this, so I'm not going to speak on it, but something with like the US government might have helped him come into power and knock out all the old Russian oligarchs. I'm not sure about that though. But this guy offered us help. It was like, yo, I'm gonna reach more, and he took, and I know this, he took heat from his war hawks in his country that were like, what are you doing helping America? Just like, you know, today, if someone did something with Russia, they'd be like, what are you doing helping Russia? So he took heat from his hawks to reach an olive branch out to George Bush. And then 3 months later, George Bush ripped up their treaty for some nuclear thing. So now
it was part of the Iran nuclear treaty that George Bush ripped up. It was connected with Russia and us putting nukes on Ukraine in the Ukraine.
Yeah, in Poland.
But then there was the whole fucking thing with that I told everybody about on when Jason was on the show, when Jazz was on the show, when I told them about Putin talking about Bill Clinton coming to fucking office and then coming over to Russia and him meeting with Bill Clinton and saying that he wanted to join NATO.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that it did happen. I'm not saying that it did happen. I'd be a liar if I said that it's absolutely true. I have no fucking idea if it's actually true. But why would he lie? Why would he lie? What's the point of him lying, saying I wanted to join NATO? What does that help? Because honestly, if it isn't true and it didn't happen, he just sounds like a bitter old bard and is like, all right, this bitch is just mad because we didn't let him join our fucking stupid ass club.
And like, did you read Vladimir Putin's declaration of war?
No, I haven't read it yet.
I'll send it to you. But dude, when he's describing American foreign policy, you would think Scott Horton might have wrote that.
Yes. All right. I'll pull it up actually, because I didn't read his declaration of war, but I may have watched it and like read it as it went.
You have to go to the Russian website.
Vladimir Putin declaration of war. It was when he was talking about it, I was just like, holy shit. Not the Reuters, not New York Times. Transcript. English. It was when I was reading it, when he was saying it, because I was watching a video and it was transcript for it. I was like, holy shit, I don't even fucking blame him. Oh, where the fuck is it? Do you already have it?
Give me 1 second. I think I'm about to find it. It's kind of long-ish.
Well, we can end the episode with this because I think it's fucking important for people to hear. I don't know if this is the full thing. I think I have it. It starts with circumstances require firm and immediate actions from us, Donbass People's Republics, asked help from Russia. In this regard, according to the Article 51, Part 7 of the United Nations Chapter, does that make sense?
No.
With the consent of the Russian Federation Council, in accordance with ratified agreement on 22nd February of this year on friendship and mutual aid. No, I don't think this is it.
I got it. So I can start reading it and we can break it down a little bit.
Can you send it to me?
Yeah,
real quick.
Send me the link.
Yeah, let's break this down because I think because I'm pretty sure it's the same one that I listened to. I listened to him talking about it.
It was like
actually saying it because he went on his own news channels and said it. It was completely
well, the thing is,
viewable public.
The thing is too is so like the media here, they didn't really play it. Like
no, they didn't say it at all. Like this should have been on every fucking national news network.
They had him, and he's pissed off. He's pissed off in this speech. It's pretty intense, and when he's talking about this. But the news, like the only thing I saw is they had him talking in like the background, like, but he was muted, and then like some lady or some person
talking about it over.
Yeah, they're just talking about it over him. And I'm like, no, like this needs to be played. Like this
does it start at the beginning, the I consider it necessary? Is that where you're starting from?
Hang on. Let me make
Citizens of Russia, friends, I consider it necessary today to speak again about the tragic events in Donbass and the key aspects of ensuring the security of Russia.
Yeah, this is it.
He goes on to say, I will begin with what we'll popcorn it, Typo. When I'm done reading, you can start reading. So follow along with me. You ready?
Okay.
Let's go. I consider it necessary today to speak again about the tragic events in Donbass. And we can stop anytime, talk about whatever we want to. And the key aspects of ensuring the security of Russia. I will begin with what I said in my address on February 21st, 2022. I spoke about our biggest concerns and worries and about the fundamental threats which irresponsible Western politicians created for Russia consistently, rudely, and unceremoniously from year to year. I am referring to the eastward expansion of NATO, which is moving its military infrastructure ever closer to the Russian border. We've been talking about this the entire time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he says it right there. That's the major. He opens it up. He opens it up with NATO expansion, and that's his problem. It is, in fact, that over the past 30 years, we have been patiently trying to come to an agreement with the leading NATO countries regarding the principles of equal and individual security in Europe. In response to our proposals, we invariably faced either cynical deception and lies or attempts at pressure and blackmail. While the North Atlantic Alliance continued to expand despite our protests and concerns, its military machine is moving, and as I said, it is approaching our very border.
Why is this happening? Where did this insolent manner of talking down from the height of their exceptionalism, infallibility, and all permissiveness come from? What is the explanation for this contemptuous and disdainful attitude to our interest and absolutely legitimate demands? The answer is simple. Everything is clear and obvious. In the late 1980s, the Soviet Union grew weaker and subsequently broke apart. That experience should serve as a good lesson for us because it has shown us that the paralysis of power and will is the first step towards complete degradation and oblivion. We lost confidence for only one moment, but it was enough to disrupt the balance of forces in the world.
As a result, the old treaties and agreements are no longer effective. Entreaties and requests do not help. Anything that does not suit the dominant state, the powers that be, is denounced as archaic, absolute, and useless. At the same time, everything it regards as useful is presented as an ultimate truth and force on others regardless of the cost, abusively and by any means available. Those who refuse to comply are subjected to strong arm tactics.
Dude, it's fucking wild because he's literally explaining the libertarian anarchist view of like world governments. Like this is why we think the way that we do, and it's because it's true. This is what they do to other countries to try to bring them under the wing of whatever bullshit that they want, whatever they want from them, whether they want your oil or your military to cease to exist or whatever it is. It's what we've done.
That's what's funny about like like RT, Russian TV or whatever, Russian television. Like it is state funded, and I'm sure they put out some propaganda for Russia or whatever, but they also hire like really good American foreign policy experts that are anti-American imperialism. Yeah. And they do that for a reason. It's not to say that everyone on RT is factually correct, but I know there's a few reporters that I follow that are on RT, and I know I think that Will Porter guy works for RT, and he also works for Scott Horton's Libertarian Institute.
Yeah, I don't know if he works for RT anymore, but I know he at least did a column for them for a while. He goes on to say, "What I am saying now does not concerns only Russia, and Russia is not the only country that is worried about this." That's true. This has to do with the entire system of international relations and sometimes even U.S. allies. The collapse of the Soviet Union led to redivision of the world and the norms of international law that developed by that time. And the most important of them, the fundamental norms that were adopted following World War II and largely formalized its outcome, came in the way of those who declared themselves the winners of the Cold War.
Of course, practice international relations and the rules regulating them had to take into account that the changes that took place in the world and in balance of forces. However, this should have been done professionally, smoothly, patiently, and with due regard and respect for the interest of all states and one's own responsibility. Instead, we saw a state of euphoria created by the feeling of absolute superiority, a kind of modern absolutism coupled with a low cultural standards and arrogance of those who formulated and pushed those decisions that suited only themselves. The situation took a different turn.
There are many examples of this. First, a bloody military operation was waged against Belgrade without the UN Security Council's sanction, but with combat aircraft and missiles used in the heart of Europe. The bombing of peaceful cities and vital infrastructure went on for several weeks. So like when they do this shit, when he says shit like this, and it makes what they're doing in, certain aspects, it's like, all right, well, this is hypocritical. And I think his kind of point is to be hypocritical at this instance. He'll call out the Western nations a couple more times later on and call them hypocrites for doing the same thing that he's about to do in the coming weeks after this. And I just think that's interesting. Sorry. I have to recall these facts because some Western colleagues prefer to forget them. And when we mention the event, they prefer to avoid speaking about international law, instead emphasizing the circumstances which they interpret as they think necessary.
Then came the turn of Iraq, Libya, and Syria. The illegal use of military power against Libya and the distortion of all UN Security Council decisions on Libya ruined the state, created a huge seat of international terrorism, and pushed the country towards a humanitarian catastrophe into a vortex of a civil war, which has continued there for years. The tragedy, which has created for hundreds of thousands and even millions of people, not only in Libya, but in the whole region, has led to a large-scale exodus from the Middle East and North Africa to Europe, which is fucking true. That's all fucking true. All the shit
that's something that you would see on antiwar.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that right there. I think it's just wild because you don't see any other world leaders saying shit like that.
Yeah, because they're not.
Because they're a part of it.
Yeah, they're a part of it.
A similar fate was also prepared for Syria. The combat operations conducted by the Western coalition in that country without the Syrian government's approval or UN Security Council sanction can only be defined as aggression and intervention. But the example that stands apart from the above events is, of course, the invasion of Iraq without any legal grounds. Goddamn, hitting with facts right here. They used the pretext of allegedly reliable information available in the United States about the presence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. To prove that allegation, the U.S. Secretary of State held up a vial with white powder. I feel like that's supposed to say white powder, but it's kind of funny that it says white power.
Especially because it was Colin Powell that gave that speech. White power.
This isn't me being retarded and not knowing what words mean. It literally says white power.
It's the official Russian website for the president.
Oh my God. We should email them and be like, hey, we just want to let you know that it says white power here, and I'm pretty sure it should be white powder. Shit, where's my place? White powder. Publicly for the whole world to see, assuring the international community that it was a chemical warfare agent created in Iraq. It later turned out that all of that was fake and a sham, and that Iraq did not have any chemical weapons. Incredible and shocking, but true. We witnessed lies made at the highest state level and voiced from the high UN rostrum. As a result, we see a tremendous loss in human life, damage, destruction, and colossal upsurge of terrorism.
Hang on, I lost my place.
Overall, it appears that nearly everywhere in many regions of the world where the United States brought its law and order, this created bloody, non-healing wounds and the curse of international terrorism and extremism. I have only mentioned the most glaring, but far from only examples of disregard for international law. That right there, that paragraph is pretty fucking wild because it states exactly what we've talked about for a while, that the United States brought its law and order that creates bloody, non-healing wounds and the curse of international terrorism and extremism. Everything that we do in the name of law and order of the United States and in civil liberties and blah, 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 in other countries, we just leave decimated and fucked up beyond belief, for lack of a better articulate term. That's what we do. We just fuck them up and then create more terrorism on top of that, and more extremism and more divisiveness in the countries that we leave that way. It's fucking wild.
And when he was talking about that for Syria, I mean, Obama, that's where Obama was arming Al-Qaeda loving terrorists in Syria to go against Assad. And that's when Russia stepped in and basically saved the Assad government from being taken over by literal terrorists. So like, in a sense, that like that's what he did. He saved Syria becoming Libya. All right. This array includes promises not to expand NATO eastwards even by an inch. To reiterate, they have deceived us. Or to put it simply, they played us. Sure, one often hears that politics is a dirty business. It could be, but it shouldn't be as dirty as it is now, not to such an extent. This type of con artist behavior is contrary not only to the principles of the international relations, but also and above all to the generally accepted norms of morality and ethics. Where is the justice and truth here? Just lies and hypocrisy all around. What a savage.
It's so savage, dude. It really is. Like, there's no other word for it. Incidentally, U.S. politicians, political scientists, and journalists write and say that a veritable empire of lies, quotation marks.
That's Ron Paul, baby.
I know. It's so fucking great, dude. All right, so like, maybe this is where like libertarians will lose fucking everybody, you know, like, to be honest, because reading this, it's saying everything that we've been saying. Like, he could have taken this from multiple libertarian writers and just compiled it into one paragraph that he just talks about here, and I wouldn't even know it because it sounds the same. It sounds exactly the same. And say that I love that it's in quotations too, implying that somebody else had said it before him. That's fucking great. Empire of lies has been created inside the United States in recent years. It is hard to disagree with this. It is really so, but one should not be modest about it. The United States is still a great country and a system-forming power. All its satellites not only humbly and obediently say yes to and parrot it at the slightest pretext, but also imitate its behavior and enthusiastically accept the rules it is offering them. Therefore, one can say with good reason and confidence that the whole so-called Western Bloc formed by the United States in its own image and likeness is, in its entirety, the very same empire of lies. Dude, so he says that, and when you listen to it, you know, when you look back and you see, you can type in great speeches in world history, and there's not very many like recorded history with sound, you know what I mean? But there's a few that are recorded with sound, and one that'll come up is there's a couple of Hitlers that come up, there's a couple of Barack Obamas that come up. Let's see, there's a couple, like, those are the two that popped in my head right away. But like, there's Dr. Martin Luther King has come up. Obviously, he comes up.
Like very good speeches like, made in history.
Phenomenal speeches in history. And if you go and watch this with the captions, so you can understand, because all of us are fucking retarded and we're not going to speak no Russian. If you go and watch this with captions, it's a phenomenal speech. First off, it just generally speaking, it's a phenomenal speech.
Yeah, not the guy, not what he's doing. The speech. The speech is amazing.
Well, no, wait. Phenomenal speech. First off, just the way he speaks, the tone he uses, the matter of fact of the way he goes, the like aura that he holds. And then the facts and receipts that he comes with inside the speech are just, you're just like, damn. Like, if you can sit there and if you can sit there and listen to this honestly, even if you're not like super, like, I'm not super pro Putin, but if you're not super anti-American, I don't really think I'm anti-American either, but if you're just, you know, kind of hanging on the fence, go and listen to this speech. Go and look up some of the shit that he's talking about, and then you will see what, like, it's just, he hits the nail on the fucking head.
He's airing out all the dirty laundry.
Yes,
all the dirty laundry, all the foreign policy shit that the United States does. He's airing it all out right now.
Just and he nails it on the head.
As for our country, after the disintegration of the USSR, even the entire unprecedented openness of the new modern Russia, its readiness to work honestly with the United States and other Western partners, and its practically unilateral disarmament, they immediately tried to put the final squeeze on us, finish us off, and utterly destroy us. This is how it was in the 1990s and the early 2000s, when the so-called collective West was actively supporting separatism and gangs of mercenaries in southern Russia, what victims, what losses we had to sustain, and what trials we had to go through at the time before we broke the back of international terrorism in the Caucasus. We remember this and we will never forget. Now he's talking about shit that I don't really know about, but I'm sure that the United States was backing fucking terrorists in Russia. Like it's not even that I need evidence of it. There's just precedent of this happening. It doesn't fucking surprise me. Like I honestly do believe they were doing shady shit like that. It makes sense, especially to the Soviet Union, to the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and if not just the United States, just NATO in general at that point in time. Properly speaking, the attempts to use us in their own interests never ceased until quite recently. They sought to destroy our traditional values and force us on their false values that would erode us, our people, from within. The attitudes they have been aggressively imposing on their countries, attitudes that are directly leading to degradation and degeneration because they are contrary to human nature. That's a shot at the gays if I ever heard one. This is not going to happen. No one has ever succeeded in doing this, nor will they succeed in now. Despite all of that, in December 2021, we made yet another attempt to reach agreement with the United States and its allies on their principles of European security and NATO's non-expansion. Our efforts were in vain. The United States has not changed its position. It does not believe it's necessary to agree with Russia on a matter that is critical for us. The United States is pursuing its own objectives while neglecting our interests.
Of course, this situation begs a question. What next? What are we to expect? If history is any guide, we know that in 1940 and early 1941, the Soviet Union went to great lengths to prevent war or at least delay its outbreak. To this end, the USSR sought not to provoke the potential aggressor until the very end by reframing or postponing the most urgent and obvious preparations it had to make to defend itself from an imminent attack. When it finally acted, it was too late. As a result, the country was not prepared to counter the invasion by Nazi Germany, which attacked our motherland on June 22nd, 1941, without declaring war. The country stopped the enemy and went on to defeat it, but this came at a tremendous cost. The attempt to appease the aggressor ahead of the Great Patriotic War proved to be a mistake, which came at a high cost for our people. In the first months after the hostilities broke out, we lost vast territory of strategic importance, as well as millions of lives. We will not make this mistake again the second time. We have no right to do so.
That part's interesting.
I love how it's called the Great Patriotic War.
I know. I was gonna say something about that. I was like, do you think that's a ploy to the conservatives of the United States, or at least Western countries? Or do you think just all countries just refer to some of these, especially like World War II, as like a great sense of patriotism for the country?
The first World War is called the Great War.
Yeah.
But maybe because,
but do you think Russia calls it the Great War?
Well, I just don't think Russia wants to name at the time wanted to name their shit the same as the West, so they want to name it whatever the fuck they.
I understand that, but like the whole thing of patriotism and things like that. That's like a very big symbolism.
Yeah, I think they just wanted maybe that was better for their PR at the time. It was like, hey, you're a fucking patriot for our country if you fight and help us fight in this war.
Yeah, they fucking slaughtered hundreds of thousands of their own people for not wanting to be a part of it. But you're a patriot, and the communist,
the communist mentality is like, or their structure was like, the worker, you're for this country, all this shit. If you anything you do for us in war is patriotic, you're helping the motherland.
Yeah, I love that it's called the motherland. Do you think that's because you get to rape and pillage its resources without disregard?
I don't know. Probably. That's what the Vikings did.
All right. Let's see. We're like halfway through this. All right. Those who aspire to global dominance have publicly designated Russia as their enemy. They did so with impunity. Make no mistake, they had no reason to act this way. It is true that they have considerable financial, scientific, technological, and military capabilities. That's a crazy thing to say in the middle of this for me. You know what I mean? To admit that some of these other countries are considering that it's Russia who doesn't back down from any of these things, to say that they are advanced in financial, scientific, technological, and military capabilities is pretty wild.
Well, I think
it's a good ploy to the underdog.
Well, I think you'll know why he says that when you get a couple more paragraphs down, because he goes pretty hard on describing something they do have.
We are aware of this and have an objective view of the economic threats we have been hearing, just as our ability to counter this brash and never-ending blackmail. Let me reiterate that we have no illusions in this regard and are extremely realistic in our assessments. As for military affairs, even after the dissolution of the USSR and losing a considerable part of its capabilities, today's Russia remains one of the most powerful nuclear states. Moreover, it has a certain advantage in several cutting-edge weapons. In this context, there should be no doubt for anyone that any potential aggressor will face defeat and ominous consequences should it directly attack our country.
At the same time, technology, including in the defense sector, is changing rapidly. One day there is one leader and tomorrow another, but a military presence in territories bordering on Russia, if we permit it to go ahead, will stay for decades to come or maybe forever, creating an ever-mounting and totally unacceptable threat for Russia. Even now, with NATO's eastward expansion, the situation for Russia has been becoming worse and more dangerous by the year. Moreover, these past days, NATO leadership has been blunt in its statement that they need to accelerate and step up efforts to bring the alliance's infrastructure closer to Russia's borders. In other words, they have been toughening their position. We cannot stand idle and passively observe these developments. This would be an absolutely irresponsible thing to do for us.
Any further expansion of the North Atlantic Alliance's infrastructure or the ongoing efforts to gain military foothold of the Ukrainian territory are unacceptable for us. Of course, the question is not about NATO itself. It merely serves as a tool of US foreign policy. The problem is that in territories adjacent to Russia, which I have to note is our historical land, a hostile anti-Russia is taking shape. Full controlled from the outside, it is doing everything to attract NATO armed forces and obtain cutting-edge weapons. For the United States and its allies, it is a policy of containing Russia with obvious geopolitical dividends. For our country, it is a matter of life and death, a matter of our historical future as a nation. This is not an exaggeration. This is a fact. It is not only a very real threat to our interests, but to the very existence of our state and to its sovereignty. It is the red line which we have spoken about on numerous occasions. They have crossed it. We've talked about crossing lines for the last 2 years. I'm not saying like a lot of this. So reading this out loud, a lot of it seems very state oriented, not people oriented, if that makes sense. Which I'm not saying that they aren't aligned. I don't know enough about Russian culture to say that they are very politically aligned with what's going on in Russia. I couldn't tell you that for any factual source at all, but it seems very state aligned to me rather than people aligned, which understandably so. I get it. This is my only drawback from this. He's still a fucking world leader with centralized power. And this is also why I don't think Putin's a good person. But I mean, the things that he's throwing out are not wrong.
Yeah,
for completely a lack of a better word.
And this, from their perspective, like this is what their perspective is. It's not to say that the perspective
from the state's
correct.
perspective.
But yes, from their perspective, they are seeing another much bigger, much more powerful state, an alliance of states getting very closer to his doorstep.
And if he has anything to do for his people, it's to protect them. And that means protecting their culture. That means protecting their religion. That means protecting their livelihoods in any way possible. If I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but I'm saying that's his justification at this point so far.
Yes. For the United States and its allies, it is a policy of... Wait, you already read that. My bad.
Yeah.
This brings me the situation in Donbass. We can see that the forces that staged the coup in Ukraine in 2014 have seized power and are keeping it with the help of ornamental election procedures and have abandoned the path of a peaceful conflict settlement. For 8 years, for 8 endless years, we have been doing everything possible to settle the situation by peaceful political means. Everything was in vain. As I said in my previous address, you cannot look without compassion at what is happening there. It became impossible to tolerate. We had to stop that atrocity, the genocide of millions of people who live there and who pinned their hopes on Russia, on all of us. It is their aspirations, the feelings and pain of these people that were the main motivating force behind our decision to recognize the independence of the Donbass People's Republic.
I would like to additionally emphasize the following. Focused on their own goals, the leading NATO countries are supporting the far-right nationalists and neo-Nazis in Ukraine. Those who will never forgive the people of Crimea and Sevastopol for freely making a choice to reunite with Russia. They will undoubtedly try to bring war to Crimea, just as they have done in Donbass, to kill innocent people just as members of the punitive units of Ukrainian nationalists and Hitler's accomplices did during the Great Patriotic War. They have also openly laid claim to several other Russian regions. If we look at the sequence of events and the incoming reports, the showdown between Russia and these forces cannot be avoided. It is only a matter of time. They are getting ready and waiting for the right moment. Moreover, they went as far as to aspire to acquire nuclear weapons. We will not let this happen. Savage.
WDs in Ukraine? WDs? WMDs?
WMDs in Ukraine? Awesome.
Oh my God, dude. Let's see. Sorry, okay. I have already said that Russia accepted the new geopolitical reality after the dissolution of the USSR. We have been treating all new post-Soviet states with respect and will continue to act this way. We respect and will respect their sovereignty as proven by the assistance we provided in Kazakhstan when it faced tragic events and a challenge in terms of its statehood and integrity. However, Russia cannot feel safe, develop, and exist while facing a permanent threat from the territory of today's Ukraine. Let me remind you that in 2000 to 2005, we used our military to push back against terrorists in the Caucasus and stood up to the integrity of our state. We preserved Russia. In 2014, we supported the people of Crimea and Sevastopol. In 2015, we used an armed forces to create a reliable shield that prevented terrorists from Syria from penetrating Russia. This was a matter of defending ourselves. We had no choice.
The same is happening today. They did not leave us any option for defending Russia and our people, other than the one we are forced to use today. In these circumstances, we have to take bold and immediate action. The People's Republics of Donbass have Russia for help. In this context, in accordance with Article 51, Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, with permission of Russia's Federation Council and an execution of the treaties of friendship and mutual assistance with Donetsk People's Republic and the Lugansk People's Republic, ratified by the Federal Assembly on February 22nd, I made a decision to carry out special military operation. The people of this operation the purpose of this operation is to protect people who for 8 years now have been facing humiliation and genocide perpetuated by the Kiev regime. To this end, we will seek to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. I didn't realize it was going to say that. I had no idea. I was like, denazify Ukraine, as well as bring to trial those who perpetuated numerous bloody crimes against civilians, including against the citizens of the Russian Federation. It is not our plan to occupy the Ukrainian territory. We do not intend to impose anything on anyone by force. At the same time, we have been hearing an increasing number of statements coming from the West that there is no need anymore to abide by the documents setting forth the outcomes of World War II, as signed by the totalitarian Soviet regime. How can we respond to that? The outcomes of World War II and the sacrifices our people had to make to defeat Nazism are sacred. This does not contradict the high values of human rights and freedoms in the reality that emerged over the post-war decades. This does not mean that nations can enjoy the right to self-determination, which is enshrined in Article 1 of the UN Charter.
Let me remind you that the people living in the territories which are part of today's Ukraine were not asked how they want to build their lives when the USSR was created or after World War II. Freedom guides our policy, the freedom to choose independently our future and the future of our children. We believe that all the peoples living in today's Ukraine, anyone who want to do this must be able to enjoy this right to make a free choice. In this context, I would like to address the citizens of Ukraine. In 2014, Russia was obligated to protect the people of Crimea and Sevastopol from those who you yourself called Nats. Is that
nationalists?
Is that the N-word?
The N-word in Ukraine is Nats.
The people of Crimea and Sevastopol made their choice in favor of being with the historical homeland, Russia, and we supported their choice. As I said, we could not act otherwise. The events have nothing to do with the desire to infringe on the interest of the Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. They are connected with the defending Russia from those who have taken Ukraine hostage and are trying to use it against our country and our people.
I reiterate, we are acting to defend ourselves from the threat created for us and from a worse peril than what is happening now. I am asking you, however, how hard this may be to understand this and to work together with us so as to turn this tragic page as soon as possible and to move forward together without following anyone to interfere in our affairs and our relations, but developing them independently so as to create favorable conditions for overcoming all these problems and to strengthen us from within as a single whole despite the existence of state borders. I believe in this, in our common future. I would also like to address the military personnel of the Ukrainian armed forces. Comrade officers, your fathers, grandfathers, and great-grandfathers did not fight the Nazi occupiers and did not defend our common motherland to allow today's neo-Nazis to seize power in Ukraine. You swore the oath of allegiance to the Ukrainian people and not to the junta. The people's adversary, which is plundering Ukraine and humiliating the Ukrainian people. I urge you to refuse to carry out their criminal orders. I urge you to immediately lay down arms and go home. I will explain what this means. And the military personnel of the Ukrainian army who do this will be able to freely leave the zone of hostilities and return to their families. I want to emphasize again that all responsibility for the possible bloodshed will lie fully and wholly with the ruling Ukrainian regime.
I would now like to say something very important for those who may be tempted to interfere in these developments from the outside. No matter who tries to stand in our way, or all the more so to create threats for our country and our people, they must know that Russia will respond immediately, and the consequences will be such as you have never seen in your entire history. No matter how the events unfold, we are ready. All the necessary decisions in this regard have been taken. I hope that my words will be heard. Citizens of Russia, The culture and values, experience, and traditions of our ancestors invariably provided a powerful underpinning for the well-being and the very existence of entire states and nations, their success and viability. Of course, this directly depends on the ability to quickly adapt to constant change, maintain social cohesion, and readiness to consolidate and summon all the available forces in order to move forward. We always need to be strong, but this strength can take a different form. The empire of lies, which I mentioned in the beginning of my speech, proceeds in its policy primarily from rough, direct force. This is when our saying on being all brawn and no brains applies. That's pretty good.
Savage. We all know that having justice and truth on our side is what makes us truly strong. If this is the case, it would be hard to disagree with the fact that is our strength and our readiness to fight that are the bedrock of independence and sovereignty and provide the necessary foundation for building a reliable future for your home, your family, and your motherland. Dear compatriots, I am certain that devoted soldiers and officers of Russia's armed forces will perform their duty with professionalism and courage. I have no doubt that the government institutions at all levels and specialists will work effectively to guarantee the stability of our economy, financial system, and social well-being. And the same applies to corporate executives and the entire business community. I hope that all parliamentary parties and civil society take a consolidated patriotic position. At the end of the day, the future of Russia is in the hands of its multi-ethnic people, as has always been the case in our history. This means that the decision that I made will be executed and will be achieved, and we will achieve the goals we have set and reliably guarantee the security of our motherland. I believe in your support and the invincible force rooted in the love for our fatherland. Fucking wild, dude. It's wild. It's so, like, if go and watch it, it'll give you a different perspective of us just reading it. It is probably one of these speeches that would be looked back upon in history as like one of the great speeches by a world leader, because the way he says it, the way he emphasizes certain things, reading it along is just, it's a great speech. And, you know, I can see why people in Russia, regardless of where you're at in Russia, will rouse to the occasion. They see the Western countries, whether that's Western Europe or the United States themselves, trying to impose their will on the people of Russia and the people surrounding Russia. And they're right. They're right. He's right. He's fucking right. And yeah, it's not hard to see.
Yeah. His like him invading is, and like him, what he's doing to prevent NATO from expanding is probably not the best way possible, I would say. No. But at the same time, like, it's literally a state and they're being pushed into a corner and they're like, yo, bro, like, back the fuck off. And like, honestly, like, if this was reversed, I mean, America would be bombing Canada, right? Like yeah. Once Russia stepped foot in Canada, America would have started bombing them immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately. And
yeah.
And now, or if we started arming Canada to start causing nonsense and start like bombing people that are close to our border that are more aligned with American values than they are with Canadian values, we would be at war. Like, this would happen here too. So it's not like this. It's not. It maybe it's a little irrational, but it is logical. Like he's doing. He has a logical consensus. It makes sense from their perspective why they're doing this, and I think
it may be a little hypocritical. It may be a little hypocritical in a sense.
And it was. I think he exaggerated. He said like millions were being genocide. Now, don't get me wrong.
I think it's a little bit lower than that.
I think it's a little bit lower, just a little bit than millions.
But there was like, you know, the Ukraine was fighting quote unquote terrorists in their country, and they were shelling and sending the Azov battalion to the east to fight off these insurgents who didn't want to be part of the Ukraine anymore.
It makes a lot more sense why Western media hasn't picked up on the Nazism in Ukraine, because the amount of times that he references it in this speech, particularly, why would they? They're going to act
that's a
like
Putin
it doesn't
talking
exist.
point, Luke.
Yeah, and like I agree that it probably is. It's probably not as strong as he's saying. I fully agree with that.
It's like, does it matter? Is it true?
It doesn't matter. Right.
That's what matters. Is it true?
Yes, exactly. And one of the largest people that we armed during 2014, the United States armed during 2014, is that group that he's specifically talking about. Whether it's as strong as it is today as it was then, it matters in a sense, but to be honest, it shouldn't matter. And this is also that he's talking about the hypocrisy of the Western states, because we're so against Nazis and everybody's a fucking Nazi in the Western states. And then he's like, it shouldn't matter. There's legitimate Nazis that are in control of powerful systems of this country that they continue to arm. And you need to lay down your arms and stop allowing it to happen, citizens of Ukraine. And that's what he's saying. And he's not even saying that he wants to take over Ukraine. He's not even saying that he wants to take over the parts of, and I'm not going to say with 100% certainty that he's not going to carve out the part of Ukraine that he thinks should be part of Russia and should have always been a part of Russia. But if he literally was like, no, this part of Ukraine wants to be its own state, then we should grant them the right to be their own state, not part of Russia and not part of Ukraine. What's the difference between the United States saying that again about like parts of Afghanistan or Iraq or anything else that we've done over the past fucking 20 plus years? There's no difference. And I think that he's pointing out the hypocrisy phenomenally.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. That's why it's like, it's very hypocritical, I think, when Americans are like, wow, dude, he's invading a sovereign nation. It's like, okay, but you do realize what country you live in, right?
Yeah, like we did that.
Like, this is
multiple times over in the last 20 years.
And dude, in the revolution in 2014, when it happened during the winter. So you know how they got people to stay outside during the protest? The protests were like 3 months long, trying to get this
power.
No, what they did was America helped fund concerts and had a bunch of events and food, so they'd stay out
Bono
there.
I bet you Bono was there. I bet you Bono was there for like all 3 months.
Dude, to help get this revolution off, the United States created 3 media companies in Ukraine to do reporting on this revolution. Dude, they fucking did everything they could to get this thing to happen and to make it seem as organic as possible. And I mean, the Russians intercepted a phone call with Victoria Newman, who was basically like I forgot, like it's like the ambassador, United States ambassador for the EU or something like that. Okay. Some weird title, some foreign, but she worked for Jake Sullivan, who was President or Vice President Joe Biden's assistant secretary that he had. And that phone call that she has, it was leaked like 8 days before this revolution took off in Ukraine. And and the reason it got popular on the media is because she says "fuck the EU" in that phone call, and the media blew it up as like, oh my god, this professional state working lady said the F word, this is bad, and that's it. But they don't go over why she says "fuck you," "fuck the EU," and the reason she says "fuck the EU" is because the EU was getting in the way.
they were trying to, Germany was trying to negotiate and with Russia, and the United States didn't want to do that. They wanted to go ahead and install this new guy, and that's when the phone call, she's basically says, I'm just waiting for an attaboy, a good to go from Joe Biden, and we're doing this. We're doing this coup.
Like, so it's Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Pyatt.
Pyatt, yeah, I think he was the ambassador to Ukraine.
Yeah. That's fucking wild. It's fucking wild. I thought it was important to read that shit and let everybody know. And it's fucking interesting, man. Like no matter, this is the best. Like, you want to talk about the best shows in the fucking world, just look at the geopolitical stage.
Yeah.
Currently. It's the best show in the fucking world. It's filled with so much drama, so much backstabbing, so much fucking everything that you could ever want.
It's worse than a soap opera. It's brutal.
It's worse than the worst villains in the world. And some of those people are right here in the United States, and some of those people are in Russia as well. Like, I'm not saying that they're not.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if you want to fucking know what's going, if you want the most entertaining, like people think some of the shit that happens in these shows are like, oh, that's crazy, that would never happen in the real world, it's all fictional. Like, they get that shit based off of fucking history. Like, this shit happens.
Yeah, it's shit. Like, there's House of Cards. I've heard a lot of people that work in DC said that, it's a little bit more dramatic and sinister. Like, there's like this sinister undertone.
Yeah.
But what's worse is they go around and act like there's nothing sinister is going on at all. Like, they're just this is what you just do. This is this is part of the job.
It's just there.
It's just part of the job, baby. And I've heard a lot of DC people have described House of Cards. It's pretty close. It's pretty close to how it goes.
Yeah, just not. It's just not actually evil. It's just getting the deal done.
And one last little tip that I just want to throw out there: the lobbying from Ukraine that went on in DC, they spent like. There's someone, I forgot this guy's name, but he basically just reports on what lobbyists do in DC. That's what he does. He just follows the lobbyists. Follow the money, baby. And Ukraine has lobbied like a shit ton of money into the past couple months into DC, like before this even happened. Just a shit ton of money to get all this weapons, all this stuff from they're buying off our politicians, just like Israel has done, just like Saudi Arabia has done. And
they want their money too.
They want their cut, baby. They want their cut. And it's just like, dude, this is like, when he says that Ukraine is a puppet state of the United States, he's not fucking lying.
No, he's not.
Like, that is true. That is a fact.
Yeah. It's fucking wild. Well, that's your fucking current events for the goddamn week. I guess that was a couple weeks ago, but
yeah, I read it the other day at work when I had some free time, and I was like, holy shit, dude, this is kind of amazing. I didn't realize he calls out the United States so much.
Dude, he called him out. He called him out by name too. And that's the shit that is like, you best come correct and you best come with receipts, and he did both.
Yeah.
He's not fucking wrong.
Yeah. It's just like, the list of atrocities Russia has done and the list of atrocities that America has done. Well, Russia's under 6 million and America is way over 6 million. Like, way.
It's not a little less.
It's way over that.
it's not a little less. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, I don't got shit less or anything else. My dog's fucking bothering me. She wants to go out. Well, that's the fucking shit show then.
We out.
It's been fun, Typo. We out.
Welcome to the shit show.
setting fire to the blunt and allowable opinion.